Hi everyone and welcome. Today we're tackling one of the most important skills you can master as an agent, creating a CMA or Comparative Market Analysis. A CMA is more than just numbers on a page. It's how you build trust with your clients. It's how you guide pricing strategy, and it's how you stand out as the professional in the room. In this session, I'll show you exactly what a CMA is, why it matters so much in today's shifting market, and how to complete one step by step inside the GLVAR MLS. We'll talk about how to pick right comps, how to make adjustments for features like pools, garages, or views, and how to present the results so clients feel confident in your recommendation. Think of this as your framework. The science gives you the numbers, and the art gives you the strategy. Together, it's how we deliver pricing mastery. So let's get started. Welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the most important skills you can master as an agent, creating a CMA, a comparative market analysis. This is how you answer the question every client asks, what's my home worth? Or is this a fair offer? And here's the key. Pricing is not just about numbers. It's both an art and a science. The science is the MLS data. The art is your professional judgment. And today, I'll give you a clear framework, and then we'll jump right into the MLS for a live demo. All right, so let's start at the basics. What exactly is a CMA? Well, it's your professional estimate of value. It's based on recently sold homes, current listings, and pending listings. You pull the data, compare the properties, and adjust for differences. Then you recommend a price range or a strategy for your client. It's not guesswork. It's a structured process, and it's the foundation for every pricing conversation. So whether you're working with a buyer about to submit an offer, or you're about to go to a listing appointment for a seller, you're going to use a comparative market analysis for both types of clients, okay? All right, so why does a CMA even matter? Because pricing is one of the biggest reasons a home sells or doesn't. Overpricing can lead to stale listings, and underpricing leaves money on the table. So a strong CMA instantly builds your credibility. It shows clients you've done the research. For sellers, it justifies your recommended price to go live on the market with. For buyers, it gives them confidence to write a smart offer. So mastering CMAs means more than trust, smoother deals, and it also means fewer surprises. Okay, so why now? Well, the market changes every week. Interest rates, inventory, buyer demand, they're always shifting. Meanwhile, clients sometimes are left confused. They can quickly see a Zestimate, they hear stories from neighbors, or they get mixed messages online. So your CMA cuts through all that noise, and it shows the reality of today's market. That's why CMA mastery is such a competitive advantage right now. All right, so let's talk about the difference between an agent CMA versus an appraisal's value. Clients often ask, why do I need your CMA if the bank does an appraisal later? So here's the difference. A CMA is a strategy tool. It happens before listing or before writing an offer. An appraisal is the bank's validation, and that step happens during the escrow process. So we are advocates for our clients. The appraiser is a neutral third party. So I tell my clients, my CMA sets the course. The appraisal confirms the value for the bank. So let's take a step back. Let's say we go live on the market for a seller at $500,000. And let's say we get an offer accepted from a buyer for $500,000. If that buyer is getting a loan from a lender, that lender during the escrow process is going to order an appraisal. That's the third-party company. That appraiser goes to the house, checks on the condition of the home, checks on all the recent comparables, so all the recent sold homes in that area, then comes back with an opinion of value. Let's say that value is $490,000, but we're under contract for $500,000. That means we have a $10,000 gap. At that point, the buyer can pay the difference out of pocket, because remember, the bank is only going to loan on the amount that the appraiser says it's valued at. So the lender is going to say, well, I'll give you the $490,000, but who's coming in with a $10,000 difference because it contracts for $500,000? So the buyer can simply say, I'll pay the difference out of pocket, or the seller can come down in price and meet it at the appraised amount. The other option is we do half and half. Maybe the buyer comes out of pocket $5,000, then the seller comes down $5,000. The other option is the buyer can back out of the contract if we can agree on the new price, and the earnest money is protected if done within the appraisal contingency period. So I just wanted to make sure you understood the entire flow of when the appraisal happens and then what happens if it comes in low. Now, if it comes in higher than the $500,000, we're good. We keep on going along with our escrow and get to the finish line. All right. So when I'm preparing for a listing appointment, I always start with the tax record. This is where you're going to find official baseline details: square footage, bedroom and bathroom count, year built, lot size, garage specs, and whether a pool is recorded or not. The tax record doesn't tell you everything, but it gives you the starting point. So once I pull those details, I double check them when I see the property in person. For example, maybe the tax record says 3 bedrooms, but the seller converted a loft into a 4th bedroom. All right, so let's go ahead and pull the tax record together so you know exactly where to find it and what to look for. All right, so you're going to start in your MLS screen and you're going to hit Matrix. And the first thing we're going to do is come up here on top where it says tax. And then we're going to select tax search. And let me pull up an address here for us. And I'm actually going to start with a condominium. Condos are a little easier to practice comping up front because we're going to see a lot of model matches. But under the house number, I'm going to put the address, which is 3920. And the street name is Legend Hills. I'm just going to start with Legend. And then the unit number I'm looking for is 202. Right, so you can see down here there's one match. I'm going to click Results. And there it is. I'm going to click over here under Property ID, and it's going to pull up the tax record. Now, when I'm looking at this tax record, one of the first things I want to look for is the subdivision name, Lone Mountain Condos Phase 2. In a perfect world, we're going to find all the model matches within that one neighborhood. If we can't find anything in there, we may have to jump to another community or neighborhood. But ideally, an appraiser wants all the model matches, if possible, within that same community or close to. Okay? Then I'm going to jump down here, and we're going to start pulling out details. Well, we know it's a condo. This one is 2 bedrooms. It has 2 full baths. And when we're thinking about the entire square footage, you can see there's a building square footage, above grade area, and gross area. And there's also a total building area and a first floor square footage. We always want to be looking for the building square footage. So that's all the square footage inside the home, and this one is 1232. And we also want to look the year built. So over here on the year built, you can see it's 2005. And because it's a condo, there's not many other details we need to be looking for. It is on the first floor, so that's important to know. And all right, so we're going to remember this later when we come and do a live demo. But as a reminder, you're going to go up to Tax, tax search, and you're going to put in the address. All right. So now we want to talk about searching for comparables. So now that we've got our subject property details, step 2 is running the search for comparables. I like to start with a half-mile to 1-mile radius. If I can, I stay inside the same subdivision as we just mentioned a little while ago, and that keeps the comps the most relevant. For timing, I stick to the last 3 to 6 months. If the market is thin, I'll expand maybe to 12 months or 9 months, but I always note if conditions have shifted. Next, I filter by size, usually within a 10% of the subject square footage, up or down. And match the bed and bath count as closely as you can, and always keep the story type consistent. For example, single story to 2-story, we wouldn't do. If we have a single story home, I'm only looking for other single story homes here in Las Vegas and Nevada. In a 2-story home, I'm only comparing those to other 2-story homes. Here in Las Vegas and in Nevada in general, 2-story homes hold a little less value, weight and value than a 1-story home does. 1-story holds more value, so we always keep those separate. Also, don't forget the status. Sold homes set the value. Pendings and actives show the competition and market activity. So I'm going to say that again in a different way. An appraiser only cares about what is in a sold status. However, it's important for your clients to know what their competition is, which is why we also look for active, because that helps set the stage on our pricing strategy along with the current pending homes. But an appraiser only looks for the sold homes. All right, so keep these points in mind, and then in just a bit, we're going to hop back into the MLS and run this search live. All right, so step 3 is selecting your comparables. I typically aim for 3 to 5 solid solds. Then I like to introduce a couple of actives or pendings just to see what today's buyers are looking at. What I don't want are outliers, foreclosures, distress sales, or properties that were flipped to the 9s. Those can throw off the analysis greatly. And here's a big one. Always check the photos. 2 homes can look identical on paper, but one could be fully remodeled while the other is completely original. And so after that, I add the best comps into my CMA tool, which we'll go over here in a bit. So we're going to go over the exact selection process when I jump back into the MLS in a moment. All right, so next I want to talk about comparing and analyzing. So step 4 is analyzing and adjusting. The MLS tool will line up your subject property against your comparables. This is where you really start to see the differences. If a comp has a pool, and your subject property doesn't, you're going to subtract value. If your subject has 4 bedrooms and the comp has 3, we're going to add some value. Look at lot sizes and garages, upgrades, and condition of the house. Adjust accordingly. The goal isn't one perfect number. It's to establish a realistic range. And later on today, I'm going to go over what those numbers should be looking like. And then you're going to recommend a list price that makes strategic sense. And remember, your CMA report isn't just numbers. It's a story you'll use to guide your client. So again, we do the CMA when prepping for a listing appointment, so we have a solid strategy on what that price range should be. Now, when you're representing a buyer and you're about to submit an offer, you want to stay ahead if you think there's going to be any appraisal issues. So it's just as important to run these CMAs for your buyers as well. Okay, so now that we covered steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 in theory, let's go into the MLS and actually work through them live. Okay, so let's go back here, and I'm going to highlight our property here. And now we're going to select the search feature and we're going to select residential. Remember, this is a condominium. And over here on the left-hand side, we want to choose active, coming soon, under contract, contingent upon sale, under contract, no show, comp only sold, and sold. Now you can see the default is 180 days. That's perfect. Now, if we don't find any matches within that date range, we may need to extend it. But remember, an appraiser loves anywhere between 3 and 6 months, if possible. Now we're going to select our subject property type. Now remember, this is a condominium, so we're going to select condo. Now up here, it's default to 0.25 miles. You might want to add 0.5 miles. And here we can simply paste that address. We're going to click on this here. So one way to do this is to eyeball it. So you can see without me putting any specifics on the criteria like number of bedrooms, square footage, all that fun stuff, we got 45 results. So I could start there. So if we hit results, I'm going to come up here to the ST because I want to see all the actives first. And I'm going to select 100 so I can see them all at one time. Let's find our subject property right here, Legends 2, right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight our subject property for easy viewing. So we can see our subject property, the square footage on the inside is 1232 and the lot is 7,022. So in a perfect world, I'm finding those exact model matches. So 1232, we're going to see if there's any pending. Well, I have a 1273, so that's pretty close. I can go ahead and highlight that. I'm going to come down here and perfect under sold, you can see I'm finding multiple with that 1232 and very similar square footage on the outside. And I'm going to come back up here and see if there's any other actives. Because if this wasn't already on the market, this one, number 7, obviously wouldn't be here as an option. So I want to make sure my sellers understand what their competition is. So I'm going to see if there's any others that match that. Okay, so now that I have that, I want to make sure I view this and understand the story here. So one of the first things I'm going to do is select print. And it auto defaults to agent single line, which is perfect. I then also want to add in the 12 photo view. Okay. So agent single line and 12 photo view. I'm going to go to print to PDF so we can see what that's going to look like. And what's great about this report, it's also going to show you the days on market. So here we go. Here's that agent single line. Here's my 2 actives. I have 1 pending and 3 sold. This is a perfect amount of comparables to tell a story to a seller, for example. I can see all the square footage here, very similar, along with the lot square footage, number of bedrooms. Now, some of these have 3 versus my 2, so we are going to have to adjust that price range, okay? And then you have your days on market, 14, 161, 62. Now the ones that sold, great news, they sold very quickly for one at 7 days, 10 days, and 3 days. And then you can move down here and start comparing the photos before you even see the house in person. So you get a good idea if any of these have been upgraded and how it's going to affect your subject property. Okay. And here's that last one at 305. You can tell that this one has definitely been upgraded. Now the difference though is that one has 3 bedrooms versus our 2. So we want to come back out here and see if we missed any that have a 2 bedroom. Here's one right here. We can add that one in. That one sold for 310. The lot is just a little larger. And then you have some more 2 bedrooms. You can maybe select this one. this one, and this one, just so you can get a better idea of what's going on. Now, the other thing I want to provide my clients is a true CMA report. So you're going to select Quick CMA right here. And it's going to produce this nice report that you can print out and take on your listing appointment. And the first section is going to show you all of your actives. The middle section is going to show you the pendings. And then you're going to see the solds underneath. And what's cool about this is here you can see a medium, a minimum, a maximum, and an average to help you with your price range. So over here you can see you have your sell price per square foot and your list price per square foot. So we really just want to look at the sell price per square foot. So if you come down that column, you can see the median is $247 and the average is $249. So when you're giving someone a range, you think, okay, I want to make sure if we're wanting to stay in value of what the house is, we need to be close to that $247 or that $249 price per square foot. And then you can print this off along with the agent single line for your client to help paint a picture. I actually use this in almost every listing appointment so they can clearly, as I'm telling them the story, they can clearly see days on market and price and all the adjustments we may need. Okay, so again, you're going to start with search, residential. You're going to select all of these here on the left. For this one, you're going to select condominium. If it's a single family residential, you simply change it to SFR, or if it's a townhouse, you change it over to townhouse. Now, the other way to do it is we put in the address here, but what we could also do is put the subdivision name in here if we wanted to, so that way it's only pulling from the subdivision, okay? But if we come back here and put in the address, over here on the right-hand side is where you can start adding the details if you didn't want to eyeball it. So let's say instead of that list of 45, it was 100, we know we need to start narrowing it down. So here you can put 2 bedrooms only. Your square footage, you can go maybe 1,000 to 1,300, for example, right? If you needed to add in garages or year built, you can also do that there. You can always plus or minus that 10%. And as you can see there, it gave 17 matches. So you hit results. You choose whichever ones you want to use. I'm just going to choose some examples here. And then you're going to go to print, agent single line, along with 12 photo view. And after you print that, you go back to results and select quick CMA, and it's going to generate that lovely report for you. So it's that easy. So you want to make sure you practice. I think condos is the perfect way to start practicing, as you're going to see a lot of model matches that way. All right. Let's go on to making adjustments. So here's a quick framework for adjustments. Always adjust the comp to the subject. Square footage. Use the average price per square foot. Adjust partially, not dollar for dollar. Bedrooms, I would say 5 to 10,000 for each room could be a difference. Bathrooms, maybe 10 to 15,000 for maybe 10 to 15,000 for a full bathroom. Garage, around 5,000 per bay in Las Vegas, maybe even a little more. Pools, usually 5 to 8% of the home's value, I would say. Often 20 to 30,000. Now, because this is not just science, it's an art, it really depends on the look and feel of that pool. So if it's a grand pool with water features and a spa, it could go upwards to $50,000 to $75,000. Okay. Views or lot size. Look for paired cells in the area. Views, oh my goodness, can definitely add a lot of money. So when you are looking at those comparables, try to find similar views if you can. Okay. All right, so adjustment for the framework for pricing. So here's a process I use every time. 1, pick the strongest comps. 2, apply consistent adjustments. And 3, Weight the most similar comps more heavily. And 4, focus on the adjusted price range. 5, recommend a strategic list price within that range. And that's how you make your pricing recommendations bulletproof. All right. The art and science. Remember, pricing is both art and science. The science is the data, comparables, formulas, and numbers. The art is your judgment. Reading the market, buyer psychology, and what features what really matter in that neighborhood. So there's no perfect number. There's a smart strategic range. And that's what you provide your clients. Okay. So outcomes for agents, here's what you walk away with: a step-by-step CMA process, a clear explanation of CMA versus appraisal, adjustment formulas you can use today, and confidence in pricing conversations, and a competitive edge for your listing presentations. So the outcomes for your clients, well, here's what your clients get. Well, for sellers, realistic pricing that gets them top dollar without sitting too long. For your buyers, confidence that they're writing a fair, competitive offer. And for everyone, fewer appraisal issues. Most importantly, they gain trust in you as a professional guiding them. So a CMA is one of your greatest superpowers as an agent. With practice, you'll start to sense home values instinctively, but you'll always back it up with data. It's not about perfection, it's about clarity, strategy, and confidence. So use this framework, practice it, and you'll see your pricing conversations and your results transform. So that's a full CMA framework, the art and science of pricing homes with confidence. You now know how to start with a tax record, search for the right comparables, make thoughtful adjustments, and use the report to guide your clients to smart decisions. Remember, there's no single perfect number. A CMA gives you a professional process to establish a value range and position your client for the best outcome. When you use this consistently, you'll build credibility, avoid appraisal surprises, and create smoother transactions for both buyers and sellers. The more CMAs you do, the stronger your pricing intuition becomes. And that's how you move from guessing to knowing. So go practice this, apply it to your next appointment, and watch how much more confident you feel in every pricing conversation. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next training.